It was a typical rainy afternoon in the city, the kind of weather that kept most people inside, sipping warm drinks and staying cozy. Inside a bustling cafe, the atmosphere was a mix of soft jazz and the rhythmic clinking of cups and plates. Behind the counter, Zoe, a young waitress, hustled between tables, delivering food and drinks with a smile that masked the weight of her tiredness. She was used to this. The long shifts, the low wages, the exhaustion, none of it was new. But today felt different. At a corner table by the window sat a woman in her early 30s, dressed in an elegant black dress, designer shoes, and an aura of superiority that filled the space around her. Her name was Vanessa, a high-powered businesswoman who had a reputation for being demanding, arrogant, and dismissive of those she considered beneath her. Zoe approached the table, notebook in hand, ready to take the order. Well, Vanessa smirked as she looked up, her eyes scanning Zoe's appearance, her worn-out uniform and tired expression. It's not often I see someone like you working in a place like this. I'm sure you've got big dreams, huh? Or are you just here to pay your bills? Zoe forced a smile, used to the kind of condescending remarks from customers like Vanessa. How may I help you today? Vanessa took a long pause before speaking, her voice dripping with mockery. I'll have a cappuccino, extra foam, and make sure it's perfect. I wouldn't want to have to complain. I'm sure you don't get many customers who actually know what a proper cappuccino should taste like. Zoe nodded politely, taking the order and walking away, trying her best to ignore the sting of Vanessa's words. As she worked behind the counter, she overheard Vanessa laughing loudly on the phone, recounting her latest business deal with a tone of superiority that made Zoe cringe. It wasn't the first time Zoe had encountered someone like Vanessa, rich, entitled, and completely unaware of the lives of the people around them. But as Zoe went about her work, a thought lingered in the back of her mind. What if life wasn't always like this? What if one day the tables turned? Little did she know that thought would be the seed for a change neither of them saw coming. Days passed and life continued its familiar routine. Zoe returned to work each day, trying to keep her spirits up despite the ongoing challenges. Vanessa's mocking words were still fresh in her mind, but Zoe tried to focus on her job, knowing she couldn't afford to waste energy on people who saw her as insignificant. She had bigger dreams, but those dreams seemed so far out of reach, until one day, everything changed. It started with an unexpected phone call. Zoe had just finished serving a group of regular customers when her manager, Greg, called her into the back office. His face looked a bit more serious than usual. Zoe, we need to talk, Greg said, as he handed her a letter. I've just received this from the cafe owner. The cafe's ownership is changing. A new investor has taken over the entire place, and they want to make some major changes. Zoe stared at the letter, her heart sinking. She knew what that meant. The new owner would likely revamp the entire staff, bringing in a more professional team. Zoe, with her years of experience but no fancy degree or polished resume, didn't fit that mold. But what does that mean for me? Zoe asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You'll have to go through an interview. But I'm not sure if you'll make the cut, Zoe. They're looking for top-tier talent, and you know this place doesn't exactly scream luxury. Zoe felt her heart race. The thought of losing her job hit her harder than she expected. This place was her lifeline, her only way of staying afloat. Desperation and fear crept in, but she tried to push them away. She had to hold on. The next morning, Zoe walked into the cafe with a heavy heart. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew she couldn't give up. That's when Vanessa walked in again, looking as pristine as ever, her face still holding that arrogant, entitled expression. Vanessa glanced at Zoe as she approached, giving her a dismissive nod. But today was different. Zoe had a feeling deep down that things were about to take a strange turn. The new owner of the cafe arrived shortly after Vanessa, accompanied by a man in a sharp suit, carrying a briefcase. The moment Zoe saw them together, something clicked in her mind. The man in the suit was none other than Vanessa's husband, someone she'd never seen up close, but had heard plenty about. He was a well-known entrepreneur, famous for his investments in luxury businesses. This was no coincidence. As Zoe went about her work, her thoughts swirled. What if Vanessa had something to do with the cafe's ownership change? What if she had no idea that the tables were about to turn for her? Later that afternoon, as Vanessa sipped her cappuccino at the corner table, Zoe's manager announced the big news. The new owner was present and was taking a hands-on approach to revamp the business. And then, the bombshell, Vanessa's husband was the one who had bought the cafe. Zoe's stomach dropped. The wheels of fate had turned, and Zoe suddenly realized that life wasn't just a string of humiliations and dreams that never came true. Sometimes it had a way of surprising you, giving you a chance when you least expected it. But what Zoe didn't know was that this new opportunity would soon present itself in ways she never imagined. The days following the announcement felt like a whirlwind for Zoe. News spread quickly throughout the cafe that the new owner, Vanessa's husband, had big plans. Rumors buzzed about major changes coming to the staff, the menu, and the atmosphere. Zoe couldn't shake the feeling that, despite everything, she was caught in the middle of something bigger than herself. As the weeks passed, Zoe kept her head down, doing her best to work efficiently while waiting for the inevitable. Then one afternoon, while she was taking a break in the back, she overheard a conversation between Greg and the new owner, Vanessa's husband, Marcus. "I think Zoe has a lot of potential," Greg said. "She's been with us for a while, and I know her work ethic. She may not have the credentials, but she knows how to connect with people." Marcus's voice was calm, but there was a slight edge to it. "She's one of the wait staff, right?" "I appreciate the feedback, Greg, but I'm looking for someone who can bring something more to the table, someone who can run this place like a true business." Zoe felt her heart race. Was she about to lose her job after all? She had to know more. Quietly, she slipped out of the break room and down the hallway, trying to stay unnoticed as she eavesdropped. "Actually," Marcus continued, his tone thoughtful, "there's a position I've been thinking about for her. It's not quite the usual path, but she might be exactly what I need." Zoe's pulse quickened. What could this mean? Was there a glimmer of hope? The next day, Zoe was called into the office. Her hands shook as she walked in, unsure of what to expect. Greg was sitting behind the desk, and Marcus was standing by the window, looking out at the city. "Zoe, I've been thinking about you," Marcus said, his voice surprisingly warm. "I've been watching how you handle things here, and I think you have the right skills, the kind of unpolished authenticity that could help take this place to the next level." Zoe's mind raced. Was this some kind of joke? "I want to offer you a position," Marcus continued. "Not as a waitress, but as the cafe's operations manager. You'll be in charge of training the new staff, overseeing day-to-day functions, and helping me expand the business." Zoe stood frozen for a moment, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Was this really happening? "You're offering me the job?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nodded. "You're more capable than you give yourself credit for, Zoe. I think you can do it. And I want to see what you can bring to the table." Her heart pounded in her chest. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. The tables had turned, but not just in the way she expected. Zoe was no longer the one being looked down upon. She was about to step into a position of power, one that could change her life forever. But the most surprising twist came later that week. Zoe arrived at work to find Vanessa sitting at her usual corner table, her posture stiff with annoyance. She was fidgeting with her phone, looking agitated. When Zoe approached, Vanessa shot her a sharp glance. I heard about the new job offer, she sneered. I didn't realize they'd hire someone like you for something so important. Do you really think you can handle it? Zoe took a deep breath, her newfound confidence rising to the surface. Actually, yes. I do. I'm more than capable. And I'm not just here to serve coffee. I'm here to take charge. Vanessa's face twisted in surprise. She had always seen Zoe as nothing more than a lowly waitress, someone beneath her. Now, seeing Zoe standing tall, poised for success, she realized that life had a funny way of turning things around. As Zoe walked away, she could feel the shift in the air. She wasn't the person she had been when she first met Vanessa. She wasn't defined by her uniform or her position anymore. The tables had truly turned, and Zoe was the one holding the power now.